Welcome to Connect.Vegas. We feature conversations with Las Vegas creators and leaders, learn about their work, and explore our shared love of our favorite city. And now, welcome our host, Ben Laifsky.
Hi, my name is Ben Laifsky, and welcome back to another episode of the Connect.Vegas podcast. I'm introducing a conversation with my friend Kirsten Larsen. She's an occupational therapist who I met networking some time ago. She has incredible energy, knowledge, and passion for helping people to get rid of their blocks. She works with individual clients. She does corporate sessions. She helps people understand how to communicate better, and just is an incredibly positive energy. Hi, and welcome back to Connect Vegas. I'm here with Kirsten. Kirsten, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Hello, everybody. My name is Kirsten Larsen, and I am a mindset coach here in Las Vegas, Nevada. I was going to say, do you want me to launch into where I'm originally from or
That's fine.
that's fine. I am originally from Nebraska. I am a former therapist. So I went to undergrad and grad school in Kansas at the University of Kansas. I took a job in Baltimore, didn't know a single human, and moved out there for 3 years. I was in Seattle for 5, and now I've been in Vegas for about 5.
Regarding your current practice, can
Yeah.
you talk about who's a typical client of yours now, or if that's,
Yes.
yeah.
So with my mindset coaching business, I'm no longer operating under my license. So it is entirely coaching. And I have a few different kind of ways that I work with people. I work one-on-one with just any person that's looking for coaching or maybe had a previous experience with therapy and is looking for something in that realm. It tends to be the one-on-one clients tend to be individuals who are maybe feeling a little stuck or lost in what they really want to do next, and or a lot of high performing, high anxiety folks that want to get a better handle on their anxiety to really be able to participate in their professional life and personal life a little better. And then I've had a few clients that will find me after breakups, actually. I think that tends to be a time for people to do a little more reflecting than maybe they were doing in the midst of it. And those are the one-on-one clients. I also create workshops for companies to support their employees. And those are interpersonal skills based, all the soft skills that people are assumed to have and have never been taught. So, communication, conflict resolution, trust building, and that's really to help organizations improve their team relationships, solidify like better retention, improve the company culture. That's what that does. So, those are the two main portions of peace and wellness.
Of your individual clients, you mentioned breakups being an event that causes them to seek out some guidance.
Sure.
Is it usually some precipitating event? Are there other things that people go through that lead them to try and make a change?
Yeah, I think we are creatures of habit. And if we can just sail along with our maladaptive or dysfunctional habits and routines, we will. So, to your point, there does tend to be sometimes an event that pushes them to do it. Another one, honestly, are the folks that are at a fork in the road and they're really not sure what they want to do next. They're feeling a little maybe like disillusioned or unfulfilled in their current position or role and are looking for more fulfillment and don't really know how to go about that. And I think what I end up offering is helping people just understand their true authentic self and get rid of some of the crap that we tend to accumulate over time as far as negative self-talk or distorted thought patterns and those kinds of things. Yeah, it does tend to be there does tend to be somewhat of a catalyst for a lot of folks.
And I guess some people have to let go of whatever they're doing to get by in their current state. Like all my coping mechanisms that I'm clinging to are probably not helping. How do you help people figure out that something doesn't serve them anymore and break that pattern?
What is interesting about this question, Ben, is that I was just with a client the other day and I was telling him that we ended up talking, and this is something I'll talk about with multiple clients, is just he had been spending time with neighbors and friends and whatnot and had been drinking quite a bit. And my job is not to tell you that's problematic or that you should or shouldn't do that. What is important to me is that I am really just reflecting back to you what you're telling me, what I hear, and if if those habits are really aligned with what your goals are. If you're wanting to grow your business and be super on top of these certain aspects of improving your business, if you're drinking till a late time at night, like you're not always going to get into the job at 6:30 or 7 or 7:30. And so again, it may not result in something hugely problematic. Like a lot of times it isn't, right? It's not this major issue. And he even said something about, I don't have a drinking problem. And I said, I'm not saying that you do it. I'm not saying it is or it isn't, right? I'm just asking you if this is really serving you and if it's really aligned with what your goals are. Because you're telling me that your goals are X, Y, and Z. Is this supporting them? And again, this is for you to answer, right?
That's a bummer because just asking the question tells me that I need to question my own behavior and habit.
I do love to help people take a look at truly what patterns and habits and routines are serving us or not serving us because we're all guilty. And that's never to say that I am sitting on some sort of pedestal and thinking that I don't have these things either. That was actually a recent conversation we had too. I can't remember what I said. And I said, oh, yeah, I struggle with that too. So don't worry.
It's having somebody else there to hold that mirror up and to
Yes.
help you examine these things. I think that's extremely valuable.
And I say in a lot of situations, I am an accountability partner more than anything. And it's not to say that these people aren't hugely successful. Like this client is very successful. A lot of the people I work with are very successful. But guess what? They still hire trainers. Like they still work with a nutritionist. Like yeah, not everybody is going to know all the things or be passionate about all the things or truly, honestly, just want to undertake all the things. So then it's who can I have that just helps me stay accountable? And to your point, just hold up a mirror and say, is this really what you want to be doing? Because if you do, go right ahead.
Love it. Let's go back to your background. You mentioned growing up in Nebraska. Maybe you
Yeah.
could talk about what it was like growing up, maybe some of the hobbies you had as a young person.
Yeah, so I grew up in a town of about 30,000 to just like two of the most wonderfully loving parents, just like a safe, stable, lovely childhood. Unremarkable in that way, but yet remarkable in that way. Let's see. This was the 90s, so Nebraska football was like top tier and every Saturday was dedicated to this. So I am a big football fan. I have three siblings. I have two older sisters and a younger brother, and we're a very close family, even though we're scattered across the United States. My my parents raised very independent children, but we do still like each other. And I played soccer for a good chunk of time. I was let's see, spending a lot of time, of course, that was pre social media and electronics. So we just like really played outside with our neighbors. So we biked and played phase 10, which I love. I love games, board games, card games, those kinds of things. So yeah, it was just what's standard? How do you like, no, there is really no standard upbringing, but a pretty just lovely childhood.
I feel like I need to interject that a couple of years ago when the Vegas Chamber had their expo
Yeah.
um, at Allegiant, you were the only one of us that could kick a field goal, and you did it barefoot.
My claim to fame. Thank you so much, Ben, for bringing that up. Yes, we had the chamber preview was at Allegiant. I had no idea that they were going to have a field goal kick set up, right? And there were about 30 men that I watched shank it to the left, shank it to the right, go under the field goal, right? And I took off my boots, I did it in my socks, and I did make that field goal. So the video is on my Instagram. It's pinned because it's a proud Nebraska moment.
You represented well.
Thanks so
Um,
much.
Going back to your earlier days, what were some of your early jobs? And maybe if you had any that were remarkable or
Yeah, so I begged my mom to start babysitting, and she finally allowed me to when I was 11 because I could take this babysitting community. It was like a community class where they went over the basics with you. And I started working. I babysat families that were in our church and then in the church nursery. And that was really my absolute love is for kids. And I did a lot of nannying, a lot of babysitting. Let's see, I was like staff for like kids camps, soccer camps, that kind of thing. One thing that I want to mention that's funny is I also have a terrible sweet tooth. So I worked at Dairy Queen and Rocky Mountain Chocolate Factory, which one of the funniest things I think for Rocky Mountain was that they have all these different kinds of chocolates and licorice and whatnot that they're selling by the pound, right? And one of my good friends, this was in high school, would come in and pull all the change out of his pockets. And he would say, how much of this can I get for $1.73? Like literally. And then I would have to weigh the individual pieces of chocolate to try to equate this awkward number whenever he literally pulled out of the car and his pocket and whatever. But it was never, I don't think, any more than like $3. So
that's awesome. Makes me curious, what led you to therapy and coaching? What took you down that path?
sure. I will just say I had a fairly easy time in school. And I feel like if school is pretty easy for you, you think that you have to become a doctor or a lawyer. That's what was going on in that day. There was definitely not a lot of talk of entrepreneurship in a small town in the middle of Nebraska. And I wanted to be a doctor for a long time, a pediatrician, and I shadowed and realized that the kids don't like the pediatrician. Yeah, of course, they're going for shots. They're going once a year. Like, this is no fun. And so I was like, this is not really what I'm looking for. And I realized that I really wanted a relationship with people. And that's what made therapy different. And I thought about going into social work. And my mom actually told me that she thought I would get too emotionally attached because I thought I would work with foster kids. And she's so right. I get really attached. However, I still basically found my way to that through the avenue that I did because it's what I really love. And so I ended up looking at physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. I really liked occupational therapy at the time, which is like half the time of medical school, which was also appealing. And when I was in grad school, there's a tiny little niche of OT jobs that work in psychiatry. And they're really difficult to find, but I was like determined to do it. And that's actually how I ended up in Baltimore. I looked for jobs in New York and in California and Boston. I went with all these major cities. and just happened to find it in Baltimore. And just, it's probably my favorite job I've ever had. I loved my 3 years there. I worked in inpatient psychiatry in downtown Baltimore, and we would run the groups. I also did inpatient psychiatry in Seattle. And so I would run the groups all day, every day. So it was between 2 to 5 groups. In Seattle, I worked 12.5-hour shifts. Woo, that was a wild time. And I would do up to 5 or 6 groups a day. And so I ended up facilitating hundreds of groups over this multiple years time. I just have always loved the field of psychiatry, and I've always wanted to help people. And so you just naturally end up in healthcare, especially again, this was early 2000s. It's, oh, you want to help people? Then you're just in healthcare. I didn't even really think about anything else.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
Maybe we should come back to more of your present work. You were talking about the groups that you put on for different companies, maybe
Yeah.
about what that entails.
Yeah. So I ended up in the hospital setting talking about communication, healthy boundaries, coping skills, stress management, right? And those are the groups that I'm facilitating on a daily day-to-day basis. With my current business, I am doing something super similar where again, I'm going into corporate America and still working with them on communication, conflict resolution, self-care. So again, there's more of a slant to how do we work together and improve the cohesion of the team and improve the culture of a company. However, there still is this piece that I love, which is just personal wellness. Like I truly want people to be their best selves and feel good and feel well. So there's still that piece to it.
Okay. And with your current one-on-one clients, maybe what's it like working with you? What is a philosophy that you bring to your pa- patients, your clients?
Yeah, my clients. What is it like working with me besides absolutely delightful, Ben? But yeah, my goal for people, and it really factored into me choosing the name for my business, is that I really want people to find a sense of internal peace. Life is going to continue to be stressful, and there's so many external factors that take us on this roller coaster. Yet our minds are our greatest prisons. Like the things that we say to ourselves on a day-to-day basis is what keeps us stuck or not pushing forward and limiting. We just all have a lot of self-limiting beliefs, and it's just super important for me to help people understand what those are and be able to actually change them. A lot of people think that it just is what it is, and it's really not. And so working one-on-one, I love it. One-on-one in the small groups are my absolute favorites because you can really get into the nitty-gritty. And once I have a little bit of time with folks, I have a rapport where I will call you out. I will push you to acknowledge things, yet at the same time, am a person that believes in like self-disclosure. And when it's appropriate and when it's relatable, I'll say, I understand why you're doing this because this is something I would do too. And so that's really important for me as well.
Is there anything people don't really understand or they misunderstand about the kind of coaching that you do?
The biggest misconception, the biggest hurdle, and the biggest challenge for me is that I meet so many people that I just know would really enjoy this and or really benefit from it. And if I talk to them about it, like I'm meeting tons of professionals like you. We met networking, and I'm meeting all these professionals networking. And there are certain folks that I'll say, I really think you would enjoy this and get a lot out of it. And for some people, the automatic like assumption is, oh, do you think I have a problem? Oh, do you think I'm depressed? Oh, do you think it's this kind of jump to this issue. And it's not about that at all. It's really just that we all have things that we all have patterns of thought and behaviors and reactions to our feelings that don't serve us, and that we would be better off shedding those. And most people don't know how to do it without a guide. And so that's the most like discouraging piece, I'd say, is that people assume that I think that something's wrong with them if I suggest doing this.
That's funny. When my business was new, I used to go after people when I knew I could help them. But then I eventually, after some trial and error, realized it was much more important whether they thought I could help them than what I thought about what I could do
Correct.
for them.
Correct. And that's something I think you figure out in the course of having your own business too. It's like when I first started, you're like trying to shoot out the gate and just help all the people, and you're really enthusiastic and you're trying to do all these things. And now I'm basically like, this is what I do. You can do it if you want to. And I think for a number of people, there's actually several people that I think have just known me for a while and then will start the coaching process or use my services or whatnot. Like it is something that a lot of people have to warm up to for whatever reasons.
So I think it's similar to like people that do financial planning. Like you have to be at a level of trust to have
Yeah.
people invite you in to that degree.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and that's the other thing too is I take confidentiality very seriously, and that's something that of course a lot of people want to ensure as well.
Totally understand. Is there anything else you wanted to mention about your work that we didn't touch on?
I will share too that I am actually, well, I started a men's group last spring. And so this was just an independent project that I had. You love independent projects, Ben, so I know you can appreciate that. But it was born out of a few things, which I had when I first started my business, I had 3 workshops that were open to the public. And they were going to be on boundaries. And funny enough, before the very first one, every single flyer that I handed out was to a woman because I thought, who's going to come talk about boundaries? All 3 workshops, I had more men attend. And I said, okay, this must be my audience some way, somehow, right? Like you have to listen to the market to have it tell you what you're doing. And so that was the first thing. And then my whole career as a coach and a therapist, I have had men say that they share things with me that they haven't shared before, or they haven't shared with other people, or they're comfortable doing. And concurrently, I again do a lot of networking. I'm out in the networking world here, and there are a million events for women, women's empowerment, women in business, and that's wonderful. I love that. However, there's very little for men to really promote their connecting and creating community and just have a platform to be able to discuss real things like with other men. I know that there are, of course, a number of church related men's groups. And then there are a number of these really quote unquote alpha men yelling in your face, you gotta do this or that or whatever. You kind of see these too, and I wanted to do something that, again, is not telling men how to be men. That doesn't make sense, as that's not me. However, it's just allowing men to talk about things. And again, these groups were structured around communication, conflict resolution, letting go of control, these themes, right? And they're like universal themes, they're not specific to men. So I did 6 sessions in the spring. They were every other week in person. They went great. I got great feedback, and the experience was really wonderful. And out of that, I have started my own podcast actually, where I'm bringing 2 different men onto the show to talk about some sort of shared content, like topic. And so these men are coming from different backgrounds and perspectives to talk about, oh gosh, I have a number of things, but mental health and the concept of failure, control, and discipline. fidelity in one's marriage, also the conventional versus unconventional route to getting a job. One had dropped out of college multiple times and one graduated college, and they're both in the financial space now and what that looks like. So yeah, that's another project that I have going. I have recorded 6 episodes and I will be releasing the first episode in about 2 weeks. So I'm excited for that.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Well, I want to move on to some fun questions for you.
Yeah.
What is a book you recommend, or maybe that you've given most often as a gift?
I actually wanted to share a book that I was given as a gift. So, You Win in the Locker Room First by John Gordon and Mike Smith. And I was given this by a friend, Caroline. And this was my most recent gifted book. So that's what I wanted to share. And it's really great. It's the 7 C's to build a winning team in business, sports, and life. And it's football coaches. And so there's a lot of football excerpts and snippets, which again, I love because I'm this Nebraska girl. I really liked this one.
That's there's probably some great stories in there.
Yeah, there really is. My mom's a huge football fan, and I was thinking like she should read it just for the stories. She cares a little bit less about building teams in the workplace, but now that she's retired.
I always loved this line by Vince Lombardi, that you must be fired with enthusiasm, or else you will be fired with enthusiasm.
That is correct. That's a good one. I don't think I heard that one.
Did you have any other books you wanted to mention, or should I?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we can continue. I mean, there's tons of books, but we can go ahead.
All right. Let's talk about Vegas. How long have you been here, and how is it different than when you first got here?
So I've been here for about 5.5 years. And that means that I moved right before COVID, which then there's been tremendous change in this city. The traffic's worse, but there just has been so much growth. And as you are well aware, they're bringing all kinds of sports teams and sports events here, which is pretty wild because we never had anything. And yeah, it's just really becoming this sports mecca.
All right. And you mentioned networking. Do you have some groups or organizations that you use to connect with others?
Yes, we met at the Vegas Chamber. So we are both active members. I see Ben all the time.
I'm not actually a member. I'm a
You're
lapsed member.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I didn't know that because I always see you a preview or yeah,
I
the
love
big
that event.
yeah, okay.
And their expo, and I love some of their events, but I'm
Yeah,
lapsed.
I see, okay. I am still a member with them, and they have an offshoot, Vegas Young Professionals that's associated with them, and I have actually met, uh, client like, corporate clients, one-on-one clients, and just really good friends through Vegas Young Professionals or VYP. So those have been 2 pretty core groups for me as they have a number of events each month, and I go to multiple a month. I like that there's also variety in the times and the locations and all that. I really like that.
All right. And are there other groups or organizations that are doing good work in the Valley that you'd like to recommend?
Oh gosh, there's all kind. Ben, how can you narrow it down to just how do you mention a few of these and not all of them? I have been the last almost 2 years actually been part of a nonprofit for foster teens and their families called Whalers. And fostering kids is a really near and dear topic to my heart. I actually finished foster parenting classes in February of 2020, and then I lost my income in March. So I was all ready to go as far as fostering a child. And then I took it again in March, which it's probably about 40 hours over maybe 6 weeks or so. So I did it again in 2021 and then I lost my income again. So I have not yet been able to foster, but I really hope to at some point. It's really a passion of mine.
That's wonderful. I wasn't familiar with that group.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Latoria, the executive director, had Started it out in the DC area where she's from, and then moved it here, I think, right before COVID or around that time as well. And so it's been evolution of sorts over time.
All right. A couple more Vegas questions for you.
Yeah.
What's your favorite meal in Las Vegas?
Oh, this is also a really tough one because I'm a huge foodie. First off, what's your favorite meal, Ben?
There's a steak at Mon Amiga B.
Ooh, yeah.
I think it's still on the menu. It's a New York Roquefort.
Oh,
That
okay.
comes to mind.
Yeah. Fancy. So, Nebraska girl, I love me some steak, actually. I am very picky. I'm very picky about my beef because my dad has cattle and I bring beef back when I visit. And so I have a hookup there. So I am pretty picky about it. But I actually had the most amazing Wagyu at Toca Madera. Have you been there?
No, which one? Where's that one?
It's in the Crystals shop, like near Veer. And yeah, that it was so good. I also love there's a place called Cornish Pasty. Have you ever been there?
Yeah, there's two of 'em.
Love yeah, love that one. It's like a Scottish sort of pastry that has these different fillings, and I love to take visitors there because you have to be able to find something you like. They have shepherd's pie, they have Thanksgiving dinner, they have a Cuban, they have tikka masala, they have every flavor profile. So I do love that one too. I could list a bunch of restaurants, to be honest, and meals.
Yeah, it's a hard question in this town. We're blessed with food.
Yeah.
How about what's your favorite spot to view Las Vegas?
Love going out to Red Rock if I'm gonna hike, and there are a couple trails that end with a shot of Vegas that you're pretty far out, so it's not you really can see the strip all that closely, but you can see it, and I really love Red Rock. From the strip, I love the high roller at the lake
Mm.
because it's a slow moving encapsulated Ferris wheel, and you really get to see the whole city. It's really beautiful. I also have you ever had tea at the Waldorf? Have you ever had a
Yes.
high tea?
I've
Yes.
made that my birthday a couple times.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that view is really pretty. It's like the other end of the strip versus where the high roller is.
But you're in
Um,
the middle of it there. You're
oh yeah, I know you don't
yeah,
really
it's
get the
so
tail end.
nice. Well, I
Yeah,
love it there.
I do too.
And then the Hard Rock across the street from that has a nice balcony as well.
Yes, they do. That one's really nice. And then Brewdog is around right by there too. Have you been there?
No, not
It's
yet.
okay, so it's between MGM and the Hard Rock. And so they have a really similar, just outdoor, lovely patio that's up high and you can see a great
Oh,
view too.
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. If you could share a phrase or a quote or an idea with just millions of people, what would that
Something I have said to myself for a really long time. I can't remember where I even heard this quote, but it's one that's really stuck with me because I'm pretty risk adverse, which a lot of people wouldn't believe because I've done a lot of moving and I've taken a lot of risks, but I love the quote, without great risk, there is no great reward, because I really believe that. And I like to try to keep motivating myself and inspiring myself to take those risks. Because as you well know, starting a business is such a risk and you're betting on yourself to do a lot of things. And while I love the thing that I do very much, I really don't like the marketing, the bookkeeping, the taxes. I really don't like the rest of it. And I really like that quote because it continues to remind me that really, when I'm older, I want to be able to look back and say I wasn't afraid to try some things. And I would rather regret the thing I did than the thing I wished for years and wouldn't do.
That's very beautifully said. If someone wants to reach you, what's the best way for them to find you online?
Yes, my personal website is peaceofwell.com. So it's ACEOFWELL.com. And you can contact me through there. My Instagram is my first name, KIRSTEN, period, LINEA, which is my middle name, Kirsten Lene. And yeah, I'm on LinkedIn, Kirsten Larsen or Kirsten Lene Larsen. But yeah.
I'll make sure I include the links to all that for you.
Oh, perfect. Wonderful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. This has been really enjoyable. I can't
Ben,
thank you enough for your time.
thank you for having me.
Awesome.
Thanks, Ben. I